Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to Empire Builders. Now, as a previous accountant, I was always creative with numbers, but I was never creative when it came to thoughts and ideas. I could never put anything together. So the idea of today's show is to try and speak to an expert and find out how someone like me can become creative in my business. Now, joining me today is Jules Hall, CEO of The Hallway. And obviously, it's your way of doing business. So tell us a bit about your background and what business you set up.
So, Chris, The Hallway is an advertising agency. So our business is creativity. People come to us, clients come to us, big businesses, medium-sized businesses, smaller businesses, because they want to grow their business. So it's how we can use original thought, often expressed in advertising, to help them drive sales, make their business bigger and better.
And so is that really the definition of creativity?
What's the definition of creativity? Massive question. To my mind, creativity it's probably the last unfair advantage we've got in business. If you look at all the businesses that succeed, it's their ability to think originally, come up with ideas the competition don't have, get there quicker, create better products. That all comes back to creativity. And that is applied right and certainly used in your marketing correctly, you can run rings around your competition.
Now, we think for most of the people watching this, they're not kind of massive global companies. They've got small companies and they're on budgets and the rest of it. And so what we're going to try and do today is share some of the ideas of some of the greats, like maybe the Coca-Colas or McDonald's, but you don't necessarily need to have millions and millions in budgets, do you?
No, it's really interesting. Having a constraint on budget actually can force better creativity. And it's funny, we found with our clients that when you have those greater constraints, like a smaller budget, that's what forces the most original thought.
Oh, well, maybe I should come to you and say, look, I've only got $10 or something like that. What can you do with it?
$10 isn't very much, Chris.
Okay. So going back to creativity, why does it really matter? Why do we need to be creative?
Why do we need to be creative? When one is starting a business or when one has a small business, most often we're in categories that already exist. We're competing against much bigger, much more established businesses. If we are a smaller version of them, why is a company going to choose us? Why is a customer going to choose us? We have to, when the others are zigging, we've got to zag. We've got to find ways to do things that are better, that are more appealing to our customers, that might make our product just uniquely different. You look at examples like one category that I was reading about yesterday, which is men's razors, total commodity. You look at Gillette, owned by Procter & Gamble, P&G, one of the biggest FMCG companies in the world, spending millions of dollars globally on advertising across TV, outdoor, digital. Then you look at Dollar Shave Club, how they've come into that market, completely disrupted it. They've basically got the same product. I'm not sure.
I've seen their adverts on Facebook all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And are they a pretty good company now?
They're a big company, and they're growing in a totally established category. The product isn't that different. Like the product is, there will be nuances, but the minute when you innovate around product features, it's very easy for a big company to throw money at research and replicate. What they've done is apply creativity to how they take their product to market and stand for something different.
So tell us a bit more about it, because I've seen the adverts and I'm sure lots of other people have, but I don't know any background to it.
Well, you've got the CEO of the business talking, and he's quite controversial what he's saying, and it's provocative. And he's being provocative, and they're being very clever with their marketing, and they're playing the classic challenger brand positioning. So agitating in a very established marketplace in a way that makes people remember their brand name. And you talk to most blokes, they're familiar with Dollar Shave Club. Whether they've bought the product or not is different. But there's a lot of people that are aware of that brand.
Because the only ones that I've seen is we'll deliver you a year's supply for X amount of dollars or something like that. And they're the adverts I've seen. So everyone's thinking you run out of razors and you've got to go and get the next one.
Yes.
And they're just really, I assume, selling convenience. That don't worry about it. You pay us a monthly amount or a yearly amount, right, and your razors are sorted. And
you think what's really clever about their business versus Gillette's business? Gillette's reliant on you walking into the supermarket and picking up the razors the blades when you need it
from the locked area because they're so valuable.
Right. And then you've got the whole issue of once you're into a major national supermarket chain, you've got a lot of foot traffic, but you've got the buyer of that supermarket chain haggling you down on price. And you have a view of what future revenue will be. Dollar Shave Club's a subscription-based model. It's that annuity income stream that so many businesses are looking for, the committed future revenue.
Very clever. So how in a company do you start building that, I guess, culture of creativity?
So the one of the things that I work in advertising. So people that work in advertising are inherently, there's an expectation, an assumption, a belief that we're creative people. The worst thing people can do is have a view they're not creative. Everyone's creative. Everyone starts off with amazing creativity. Look at children. Anyone that you don't have your own children, friends' children's. Look at how innovative and original and the imagination that children have. It gets beaten out of us. I don't know if it's the education system, it's society, but it gets beaten out of us. And like, I started my career as a management consultant in London, working for a company called Accenture, big global business. The last thing we were ever allowed to think we were was creative. This is 20 years ago now. You look at Accenture now, one of the things they're really peddling is trying to get their people to believe in their creativity. And that's the big thing. It doesn't matter what business you're in, we all have inherent creativity, the ability to come up with original thought that can make our business better.
So when it comes to advertising and say I come to you as a client, how do you start trying to generate these ideas?
So let's talk about what the process of creativity is. The methodology and approach is critical. Creativity isn't just zany thoughts that you give the guy a couple of beers and put him in a dark room and he comes up with some wacky ideas. You might get lucky. You probably won't. You probably won't that way. A rigorous, great creativity comes from a really rigorous approach, and it's much about what are we not going to focus on as much as what we will focus on. And the big thing is when a client comes to us, what we have to really get our heads around is what's the actual problem? And oftentimes someone comes to us and goes, I need a new ad campaign. And go, well, that's not the problem. What's the problem sitting behind that problem? Well, our sales aren't as high as we'd like them to be. Okay, what's the problem behind that? Why are people not buying your product? And it isn't always advertising that needs to be the answer. There's been a great example in Australia a couple of years ago where Tontine, which manufactures pillows, and it's a really low consideration purchase. And the client came to them and said, we need to sell more pillows. When they started going through the strategic process of going, what's this problem we've got to solve? The insight was people don't realize how dirty their pillows get. They're not aware of the number of bugs that live in their pillows. I was certainly not. I had no idea about this. So what they came up with, they came up with some advertising that alerted people to how many bugs and horrible things were living in their pillow just by their ears as they were trying to get a restful night's sleep. But what they did was they put a best before date on pillows. So they put a date stamp onto pillows. So they changed the manufacturing process to put date stamps onto pillows. And suddenly, when you see an expiry date on your pillow, what are you going to do?
When it's 5 or 10 years ago.
That's right. You're going to buy a new one. So the brilliant way of driving sales in a commoditized category that no one else had thought of. And it gave Tontine as a brand a way to stand out from everyone else.
Very good. And I guess they get the reputation of being front of market, that they're always the innovator that are doing stuff.
That's right. It gives them permission to introduce new products into the market, more innovative products. And they have the credibility to do so. And the customers will listen to them because the positioning they've established through what they've done with the date stamp work.
Now, straight away, that sounded like a great idea. How do you know a good idea from a bad one? Because, again, I mean, you could say that's a great idea, but nothing happened.
Yes, it's a really good question because creativity can be incredibly subjective. And what we talk a lot about with our clients is there is a point where it moves from science into art, but you have to have rational decision frameworks that sit behind those ideas. So the ultimate test of it will be, did it achieve its objectives? And usually that's, did it drive sales? But when you're looking at an idea, before you spend the money buying the advertising, someone's got to make that decision and go, is idea 1 or idea 2 the one that's going to drive sales? The way you qualify an idea is look back at the strategic objectives. What are we trying to achieve? Who are the people we're trying to connect with? What do we know about those people? What are the fundamental human truths that we know about them that we can leverage in our communications? Does this idea deliver on what they need? It's not about what the person looking at the idea thinks, because one of the great mistakes is you look at an idea, you look at an ad concept and you go, I don't like it. And oftentimes, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. We're not trying to sell ads to you, a 25-year-old bloke like yourself, Chris. We're trying to sell it to a 45-year-old man, for example, and you've got to put yourselves in the shoes of that person and decide if it works for them based on what we know about them.
And that's very hard to do, because I remember when the ad agency that I used came up with my company name, I didn't actually like it.
Yeah.
But I said, you guys are the experts, that's what I'm paying you for, and I've got to pass that trust, I'll go with it.
Yeah, it's a very
But I
hard
guess a
thing
lot
to
of
do.
people wouldn't necessarily have that trust and realise, because they want to do something that they love.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And I think it's a really hard thing to do. It requires great self-awareness and confidence and maturity to take those sorts of recommendations.
Because I guess some of the budgets that you would deal with are millions and tens of millions of dollars, and for a client not to like the idea. And
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.